This is what it feels like to truly feel all alone. But if I let you inside, could you keep me warm from the cold? The embers and ashes, show me what home is. Lead me back to the other side. Where do I go when I'm feeling lost in the shadows? When the walls talk, when I don't know which way is home. Save me from my thoughts. When I'm feeling lost, when I'm feeling lost, when I'm feeling lost, when I'm feeling.
For some reason, the Streamlabs, it's supposed to have, like, be able to put both my Kick and my Twitch into the same chat. It doesn't do it for some reason. So what it does is it does multi-stream chat, which is just the Twitch chat, and then it has the Kick chat, but the Kick chat never works. So you have to refresh it and then do all this stuff, and I basically I have to watch my own video through this little tab, and if I forget to mute it inside of the recording audio software, it tries to play in the back of my... Anyway, it's annoying. They need to work on it. How are you guys doing today? And by the way, welcome everybody who is also watching on the podcast. Yay. Now, you guys, tell me, what's going on? Very good. You have nothing going on in your lives. Yes.
I was deferring. I'm great. I was playing Fellowship earlier in the day, got my character leveled up nearly to the end game, and things are looking up. So having a good time.
Okay, there you go. That's how are you doing?
Woke up, I had breakfast, and here we are.
That's more or less.
Oh my god, it's 3 o'clock.
Yeah, but I'm also in the same boat. I woke up and did not have breakfast until right before we went live. That's why I still have a third of a sandwich here in front of me. And then we went live. Yeah, because... by the way, welcome Drew, and I think Queen's in here. I can't tell whoever else is because it's not popped up on my stream yet, but at least those two have communicated with me and have let me know that they are here, and so I will try my darndest to, check that out. There must be some sort of, like, it's off. I gotta get it fixed. There's gotta be a disconnect between my Kick. Because even on my chat box, it should be showing what Fallen Queen has been typing and doing. And it's not. And I have my chat box set up to show Kick. Like, it's supposed to be connected, but it's not. It's not showing it, so there's something... Anyway, I was just noticing. I love starting streaming for the first time after 4 years, because each time I've learned something different. Like, last night, it was... that was when I learned... it was Loki. I don't know why I have this in my phone. Hold on. Let me push this back in. He gave me the sub, right? I realized I didn't have my alerts, my regular alerts set up to shut. You have to actually put it as a box on your screen for you to hear it and see. And I just didn't. I thought it was like an innate natural. I forgot that I have to actively tell it to show that people are subbing and make noises. And so that was one thing that I streamed 2 full streams with people and didn't have alerts on. It just, it is a learning curve. But I will say this, and I would like to, thanks to Ply, because he was very gracious, and he has dual streamed with me, and he's brought some people over, and he has absolutely tried to push people onto my channel, because he knows I'm starting over from scratch, and he's doing it genuinely out of, like, goodness of his heart, trying to get me motivated back into the groove, and he has helped both those streams do way better than they would have if I had just started off on my own, from scratch, nobody realizing I'm back. So I wanted to give some credit there, credit where credit's due. He's a very kind, caring individual who genuinely was doing it to help me out. So thanks for him. All right, but this is not podcast. Let's the podcast. We must talk. If podcast, grog like podcast and podcast like grog. Fuck. Let me find. I've got 27 apps open. Let me get to the one that has my notes for what we're going to talk about. All right.
Okay, grog
like. Okay. This isn't a topic. This is just me. So somebody. There is a guy who does social media, and his whole thing, he has this goofy ass face, but he always like does like scenes from Twilight, but he like kind of almost mocks him a little bit, you know. He's like trying to make fun of how Belle always looks, and he's like, he does all the, he just over exaggerates what they do because it's ridiculous anyway. But somebody was making a point that, and I remember this, that this is actual canon. This is actually the story, which blows my mind that this story took off. But so Bella has some magical blood, right? So that's why both Edward and Jacob want a bone. Jacob could smell that her bloodline was like who he was supposed to. She was the one, right? And so first we have to remember that Edward is like 100 and something years old. He's a bazillion years old, and he's banging some high school chick. So at first, let's just put that out there. That's the first standard part of the story. Jacob, what he was actually attracted to, this is fantastic. It wasn't Bella. It was her ovaries. And he ends up marrying and banging her child. So that's who he smelled, her ovaries, and that is what made him attracted to her. But he got confused because he wasn't actually attracted to Bella. He was attracted to her child. That's the actual story of the books. And that's, I want that to wash over you. To think that is that got made into this multi-million, massive selling movie. And that is the story. I want you to process that and really let it sink in.
I'd rather not. For being totally honest, no, I'm good.
Yes, I am Fallen Queen. Fallen Queen knows exactly who I'm talking about. It's the Hoa 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 dude, because he does the music. That's literally what Hoa Hoa Hoa. Anyway, he does the singing. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I can't believe somebody else knew what I was talking about just from my horrible description. But yeah, I just wanted to, I want people to have that in their minds as we start this Saturday, that the entire Twilight franchise is based off of like 100-year-old dudes banging teenagers and sniffing ovaries. So just remember that. Sorry, Rage. I feel like I don't know if I can really ruin that story though. I mean, it was pretty trash from the beginning. I'm not sure. Not exploding. What's the word I'm looking for? Yeah. Not expressing, huh?
Reaching?
I know, like I'm exposing. I'm exposing, I'm like making it known to the people, but I'm not necessarily, I'm not like ruining. I feel like it's already ruined. I'm just letting people know that it's already ruined. You know what I mean? Okay, sorry. That was my first. I know I didn't really give you guys much to work with there. I just wanted to start us off with a fun little tidbit of valuable information for the people, so that the rest of the podcast, they can have that in the back of their head.
Absolutely what I need in the back
So,
of my head.
instead of Team Edward and Team Jacob, it should be like Team Pedo and Team Ovary Sniffer. And that's what those should have. Anyway, put it on your T-shirt now. Yeah.
Isn't it furry as well?
Well, yeah, that's true too. Well, no, she's Team Furries. She was the furry because they were the. You're right.
It's all in there. It's there.
Yeah. Just get all of the quality. I'm trying to think of what. All right, here's another little tidbit, and I'll get your feedback on this. What do you think? So this week, someone discovered a comic sold. Okay, it's a comic book.
Okay.
Someone discovered it in the past year in their attic. It was an old Superman comic, sold for $9.1 million. What do you think about paying $9.1 million for a comic book?
Hell no.
I mean, if they're willing to, I'll make a copy. I'll sell it. If they're willing to spend that money, so some people got more money than sense. And the world's better when they spend it compared to save it. That's my statement.
You might be right about that. That is the element that I was starting to come to. It's like, maybe it's better that person doesn't have money. Maybe they should spread it out and give it to other people. But what I'm worried about is they probably don't. The family probably gets a portion of it, but I bet you the auction house and all these banks get it. And then that's just going to get into the investment circles and, I don't know if it goes out to the people. But yeah, no, I think that almost about art too, but maybe even more so comic books than even, like, you have an artist who's stroking the brush, right? Like, there's something a little more tangible about that than, like, a printed comic book. Like, the initial guy drew it, right? I think that would be worth money. I can see that being worth money because you're like, his hands. Yeah, there's something very individual and, like, tangible, and only he could do this. But once you get to the point where, like, oh, this is one of however many where a machine just is like, ba-ba, print page, ba-ba, print page, kind of loses the value to me. Like, I feel like then it's just like, it's replicable. I don't...
At least there are multiple people involved with comics, because you got to have an artist, you got to have a writer, you got to have,
publishing, and yeah.
There are multiple aspects, whereas an artist is just a person, but it's small differences, I think.
Yeah. Rage made a good point. He said, "Look at Magic. I mean, Magic cards do the same thing, right? There is a singular Magic card that sold for $1 million. And it's like, that's. I think there's a lot of stuff that sells for way too much. Right? I think luxury clothing is like batshit crazy. Silly. It's literally like the same shirt that you can get from Walmart, but they spend a little extra money stitching like a logo on it. And it literally comes, like, they found that, like, some of these actually come from the same factory. It's literally the same clothing, same factory, just what happens is, for, like, main retailers, they'll send it straight to the retailer, or they'll send it to, like, Murphy USA or something like that, right? And then Murphy will put their little tag on it and sell it for $20 for a t-shirt. They will, for the luxury brands, they will send it to the Italians. So, and what the Italians do is they stitch their little name on it in Italy, and then that makes it from Italy, from the brand manufacturer, and then they ship it to the stores. And so, it's like a shirt could cost $3,000 or $4,000, and it's actually worth maybe $30 or something. You know what I mean? It's like, but people will absolutely dump money out just to, like Ray just thought, or jeans that have been torn up and worn down already.
I was actually going to mention, I know cowboys who sell their old jeans and boots to, like, New Yorkers after they're all already beat up, scuffed up.
That's meant I love it.
In all kinds of cow
That's
shit.
what I was saying. Like, they got ball sweat in the crotch, and New York's like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I'm so happy. I sold $300 for this.
Oh yeah, I mean they'll buy a $20 pair of jeans and sell it for $300 to some idiot who wants.
I need to start doing that shit. That's
destroyed jeans.
I'm gonna start wearing jeans on stream just so I can wear them. I don't know why I just took a bite of the sandwich. I just realized into my camera I am chewing. Into the mic. It was just there, and you were talking, and we normally when we talk, I can take a bite of a sandwich anytime I want, and I wasn't thinking that we're recording, so I was just like, nom, nom. Okay. Well, that gets us into talking about capitalism, does it not?
Nice.
Look at that transition. Placebo, our wise and aloof nectar of intellectual reasoning portion of our podcast, has provided us with an article, or I think is it an article or was it a section of a book?
It's an interview with a guy about his book, but it's in article form, so it's all of that.
Okay, that's okay. That's where maybe I was getting a little bit confused.
Like many interviews you'll watch on YouTube, this one is literally it's written out in an article instead. So it is an article, but it's about a guy talking about his book.
And so anyway, the topic of it, or this section of it, I don't think this is the topic of the whole book, but it's a portion of the book that this is what it was talking about, which is called Limbic Capitalism. And it was talking about how I love that even in my notes, I got spell check fucked over, but that recently businesses have been targeting the limbic system and like addictive properties. So you got to think like gambling, junk food, like the way the stuff they put in junk food that makes you want to just keep getting it, even though you know it's bad for you, etc. Which I know all about that. And then I started thinking like, we know how we try to tie a lot of stuff into video games. We've got gotcha games,
So that was one of the things mentioned at the very start of the interview. I don't know if it's specifically a country or if it's the American Psychological Association or what, but there is now gaming disorder, right? Gaming disorder is now a real classified disease that I believe is just addiction, right? Addiction to gaming, such that it's detrimental for your life. So yeah.
Now, the funny thing is, I would say I know that the gaming disease doesn't just hit with like gotcha games or, excuse me, games like CS:GO with like just straight up gambling mechanisms with their cases and that.
RuneScape.
Yeah, RuneScape. There's MMOs. There's like, I know like it was crazy that a lot of like in Korea, people would like die in PC, what are those PC gaming centers where you can get the
yeah. I forget
gaming,
what they're called, but it's a gaming room where you can go and you buy time.
Yeah, it's oh, someone help me. Well, there's 4 people watching. Some of you have to know what we're talking about. It's a I've
like
said
a lounge.
This,
like
yes,
a
gaming lounge or something. Yeah, something
like
like, there's a word for it, but my brain is just like, I guess I'm old and it doesn't work anymore. But like people used to go there and they would just stay there so long that they would like lack nutrients and they would die. And then all they were doing was playing like an MMO. They just got so addicted to the sensation of like accomplishment, of belonging, of being, feeling worshipped in this community, this online community. It was so strong that they wouldn't even take care of their genuine physical needs, which I think is fascinating. But anyway, yeah, that is an element of it. So I don't know. What? So you guys talk. I've been jabbering on.
The biggest problem with it, I think, is that, as he talks about in the book, you can't make any serious money if people only occasionally do these things that they are selling, right? Like alcohol, cigarettes, or gaming, right? You can't really make that much money if people only occasionally do it. We're in an economy that's increasingly predicated on attention and surveillance. He says the logic of the system is to push consumers toward heavy consumption, and at the extreme of that spectrum, you get compulsive, harmful consumption. And there's the problem: to make sustained profits and to keep your shareholders happy, you have to push in that direction that harms people, right? And you're using their limbic system, which is like an ancient, like it's basic motivation, basic drive, right? Basic emotions. And I believe the record is clear. The more the limbic system is activated, the less your frontal lobe is activated. So when your limbic system is going, your frontal lobe is shutting off, and your frontal lobe is responsible for your best decision making, right? It is where that happens.
That is fascinating.
It's why when you drink alcohol, right, guess what happens? Your frontal lobe starts going away. It starts shutting down, right? And then you make the bad decisions, right? Who'd have thought? And so here we are with, I think, elements of capitalism that are pushing certain sales items towards this, almost using people as if they are animals more than people, just to buy the items. I wonder, because I like capitalism, right? But what about this stuff, right? Should this stuff be off limits? Should this stuff be dealt with in a different way? I have no idea what
do you think it's a bit of Darwinism? Right? Like survival of the fit. See, I don't know if that's true, though, because I feel like you can sometimes get introduced to these elements not realizing, like, you don't always have all the information of just how life-altering some of this stuff can be. Yeah, I mean, like, let's take video games, like Overwatch, right? Like, they got in big trouble because they had the boxes that you weren't guaranteed what you could get out of the box. So you had to just keep paying, and it became kind of like a gambling thing. That's where it actually got, like, they had to fix that element of the game in Europe because it was getting legal pushback.
Yeah.
But so I guess I started thinking, like, the reason that they did that was because it was like children who were just playing a game, but then they were getting introduced to this system, so you can't really completely hold them like entirely personally responsible. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going into a situation and you don't, it's not like you're walking into a Harrah's Cherokee casino, right? Like, then you are making that choice. You know what you're doing. If you lose the house, that's you making dumb decisions, right? Yeah. But so I wonder where that element comes from, because I actually have an interesting story personal that happened this week. I got an email. So for those that don't know, I play just a tiny bit tiny bit of online gambling with slots and stuff on a site called Stake. It's the one that like Trainwreck does. It's actually the biggest, I think, online game. Anyway, it's going to be illegal to play on it in December. Like that, they're getting rid of it in my state, in Tennessee. I don't know if it's. I know in the U.S. it's actually they had to do. So here's how they set it up in the U.S. You're not even supposed to be able to do it at all in the U.S. But they set it up as an online raffle site, and somehow they, through legalese, made it to where it's technically like a raffle site, or it's a social gambling / raffle site. So because they give you like free gold every so often, it's like, oh, this isn't. They can choose whether or not they play, but they can play every day for. We give them, the equivalent of $1 every day if they want to spend it or whatever. But I know that they're getting huge trouble with the law in California. Because they're called them out. They're like, no, you're just a online casino. Don't, get the fuck out of here with that. And I think they're starting to get exposed with a lot more other states. And so I'm wondering how, like, I do think you're talking about, like, do we make this legal or illegal? I think that's the ease of it being online, and then you can do it on your phone. I think there's something about the access and how just easy it is to hop on. Like, you don't have to drive to a casino, sit in a casino. Like, there's a whole element there that is much more, like, conscientious, whereas the online gambling side of it, like, it makes it just way too easy, and that's where the legal ramifications are coming from. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting, because I think there is, like, the governments are trying to figure out where that balance point is that you were talking about. Like, you want there to be freedom of choice. You let society, like, sometimes you're responsible for your own bad decisions, but sometimes your decisions aren't fully informed and people are taking advantage of you, and you have to keep that from happening.
I mean, when I'm at the gym, right, there's like TVs, monitors, all up on the top, right? Sports, the stock market, the news, the sports, the news, right? All up there.
Yeah.
And on at least 3 of the maybe 11 or 12, there's the like food challenges where people are making just incredibly delicious meals.
God.
Right?
Oh yeah, tell Daddy all about it.
And I'm there, and we're on the chest machine, and we're ripping the cable flies, and right there in front of us, if we look up, it's like, dude, like, thank God we're here trying to build muscle and not trying to lose fat, because that is like, come on now, right? But it's the same sort of thing, like isn't it wrong to be targeting like that? But isn't that what capitalism demands they do for them to succeed as a business?
Yeah, I feel like. Yes, it's almost like, so the founders said that, like, our system would fail if we lost the moral groundwork that it was built upon. Being that it was, a lot of these elements work brilliantly if you have a moral foundation that you're not trying to harm people while you do it. Like, if there's some, back then it was God, right? People were worried, like, God says I should not harm other people to make myself rich, ergo I will cut it off at this I understand where the harm is coming from, but I do think there is a bit of that, like, I mean, I'm trying to figure it out, because I don't think there's not a perfect system, right? There is no perfect governmental system. They all get broken because humans are immoral. So I mean, right, like, almost any system, if everybody did what they were supposed to, would work, right? Like, any Marxist system would work if everybody worked for everybody else's good. No one wanted anything even the slightest bit more than somebody else. Nobody was lazy. Nothing, if everything worked perfect, then yeah, it would work. So I don't know. I don't know. It's a really tough. I mean, I guess that's why they're still struggling to vote on things, and people like us are having debates online, and because it's not an easy answer, right? Like, there's no perfect solution to it. I mean, we come to this all the time. Society should be more moral. We are a little too, like, I do think we are a little too selfish, but also, like, financially focused. I mean, we were talking about that earlier, right? With streaming and stuff, and, like, sometimes you gotta make financial decisions more than, like, This isn't necessarily what I would want to do with my free time. This isn't like if I were just hanging out with the boys, this isn't the environment that I would probably be playing games in, But for the stream, you're doing entertainment. It's you got to think of it as like you're a movie actor going in to play a role, and you're doing what the people want to pay you to be on screen for. And then when you're off screen, you get to be, whatever you are. But I think that does have that has a limit. And actually, this will lead into, once we get done with this, I will bring it back to what I just said there, talking about streamers having offline and online personas. Because I think we're seeing that really play out in a public display right now. Like, it's big. Like, we're having major streamer blowback. And a lot of conflict and a lot of people losing followers and all kinds of stuff happening because of that. But anyway, I don't know. What do you think? I feel bad. Evil's just been kind of up there, thinking, and I'd like to hear his thoughts. I've been jammering on.
So honestly, my first reaction is initially to like the gaming addiction, and it's weird whenever you just paint broad strokes over things, because there are games out there that actually develop people. They give them, critical thinking skills, reflex and intuition skills, and there are alcohols out there that actually have positive benefits. It's just, anything in excess is a problem. It's just whenever we start to throw these kind of like large labels over things to shut it down, because there's a very wide difference between sitting your kid down in front of a game and them becoming a vegetable, and people actually learning skills and developing in some way. And most games aren't, they're an escape for a lot of people, but there are a lot of good things out there, like especially in the developmental ages. Like, there are a lot of math and science games and stuff out there that actually are well intentioned for people. So it's this whole like limbic process thing. It really is like, where is that line drawn? I know Preacher mentioned that it's just like, what does one person define as a bad trait to the next? What are we actually, I guess, characterizing in some of these instances? Because it's just a gateway to shutting things down completely. Whereas there are instances of gambling that are not as bad, but I think most people, even people who gamble, realize that, hey, this isn't necessarily a good thing. It's just something that I'm occasionally benefit from. Whereas like there are other things like pornography that, if you get addicted to that, going into it, it's most likely a problem. So what exactly is the differentiation there? Like, I haven't read this thing, so I'm genuinely curious to see, is this person just sitting there saying like, hey, anything that's got a loot box, or is I don't know, a multiplayer platform that is known for negativity. What are we actually critiquing in these instances?
So I think what he is actually critiquing is companies and businesses trying to weaponize your primal brain against your best interests.
Okay.
I think that's the big.
So it is the marketability of these things.
It's the actions done by the companies to push you a certain way against what would be a good thing for you into something bad for you, so that they can make money.
Yes, it's not a critique of video games in general. He was just using that
Or
as an
gambling,
example.
or
Yes, he was using it as an example,
yeah.
as like companies can take something and highly like condense it down to where they know what's going to trick your brain into wanting to. That's why you use gotcha games, because that's almost the entire purpose of gotcha games, is to get you to want to keep spending money to get that 5-star whatever. So you have to keep going, burning through, because it literally is biologically, they have figured out how to hack your brain to make you spend money that you shouldn't be spending extra.
Right.
Do
there's a great old quote about it that was like, if you can't figure out what product someone is selling, you're the product, right? And I think it's like that, right? Just so how, clickbait tries to get your attention to get you to click it so they can make money on ad revenue, right? It's like, it's sort of a disrespect for you and your thoughts and your abilities compared to their desire to make profit.
Okay, so it's mostly on the marketing side of this thing. It's not necessarily that any one thing is a problem. It's just whenever they get you into
He
it,
does say there are certain type of things that are the problem, that are like the quick dopamine hits, right? Those things that are those are the things that, when marketed in this way, can lead you to neglect your frontal lobe and your judgment for your limbic system and your automatic processes.
Okay, and he's the one that's using this new definition of psychiatric addiction, the gaming, whatever.
No, that's been around for a long time.
That was around.
That's been around for a long time.
That's just an example of he thinks how the systems work, right? He thinks it's evidence that limbic capitalism has been going on and harming people, and now we have this sort of.
Well, okay, so I would like to go back, because I think the idea of the gaming thing is the same as like gambling addiction. It's just an addiction to something that, if you were able to stop yourself, wouldn't be that bad, but people overindulge in it. And also, there is something I would like to touch on, because you're talking about how like games can cause critical thinking, but I would say so could other things that may not also have the harmful side effects of just sitting there like a vegetable in your chair, right? Like, you could also develop those same principles. It's kind of like with the alcohol. The whole thing is like, oh, if you drink a glass of wine a day, it's good for your whatever. It's like, yeah, so is eating a handful of grapes. We did the exact same thing. It wasn't the alcohol that was in the wine that was helping people. It was the antioxidants that you find in the grapes that was actually the thing helping people. So if they ate a handful of grapes, they would not only get all the positives, but they also wouldn't be hitting their liver with the alcohol that would have to work it through. So there's always like that balance. It's like, sure, it's fun. And I mean, I smoke cigars, so I don't, it's like, as long as I don't pull a Kansas, smoke like 12 a day. My God. But anyway, like, I think I've found it to not hinder my health at one a day. Like, I usually smoke one on a podcast or one on I'm not crushing them. Sometimes I don't even smoke a full one. Sometimes it's like a half. Sometimes it's not even. Anyway, my point being, I get it. I made that choice, right? Like, I enjoy it. It brings me relaxation. It's flavorful. I enjoy it. But it's, I am fully aware that it's not healthy. But I could get probably all of the stuff I get here was from something else that's significantly healthier, right? It's just not as fun. So because I have thought about that. Like, I see people play video games for 8-10 hours a day, and I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know if that is the best use.
I'm glad Kevin is here, because he said something that I very much agreed with a few podcasts ago, and he was like, no one should benefit or profit from the suffering of others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I think that's right. But that's what this is to me, right? That seems to be what this is, right? Like, the person who's like, all right, I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to eat clean, I want to lose some weight, get in shape, right? Every day they're bombarded by tons and tons of advertisements for cheap, shitty food, right? And it's like, it's very, very hard to get out of that.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at, and he references this in the art, he says, if you look at someone who quit heroin, right? They say, all right, how did you quit heroin? They'll say things like, well, I left my old neighborhood. I got away from the friends that would remind me of drug use, or I got away from the neighborhoods that reminded me of getting high. But how can you do that with something like food? You're bombarded with images of hyperpalatable food. You have to eat virtually every day, right? You must to live. And then with digital technology, it's even harder. So
yeah, it's much harder to cut yourself off from a root trigger when it comes to food than it is heroin, right? Like, you can actually completely remove yourself from every trigger when it comes to heroin, other than maybe some even emotional things. You can kind of like cut people out of your life that maybe caused you to feel emotionally a certain way or something. I mean, some you can't.
And I think what his should be is maybe capitalism has the limit right here. We've found things that
Yes.
should not be in this realm and should be dealt with otherwise. That's what I think is a reasonable.
I can see what you're saying. I think that's fair because, like, we're going back to gambling, right? We found a limit with gambling. We found a limit with alcohol, right? You have to be 21. You can't drive while you're drunk, right? Like we found some. We put on. It's not that you can't do it. It's just that we found this is where it starts to harm society. Because if you drive drunk, you drastically increase not just your ability to hurt yourself, but other people on the road, right? That's where you kind of start seeing these elements come in legally, where your decision to do something starts to negatively impact other people, and you have to find that limit. And so I think you're right. We need to discuss this a little bit more as marketing. Like, we need to figure out where that limit is and start implementing maybe some reasonable.
Because, like, I mean, when I think of capitalism, I think, all right, you're supposed to take advantages that you have and leverage them for benefit, right? And I totally get that. That makes sense, right? Everyone has advantages, right? You use them well, leverage what other people can't do. But there's something about, like, leveraging, like, the weak willpower of others, you know, and pushing their willpower to be even worse. And there's
making them even that's the other element. I think it's
right. You know,
it's not just taking it; it's making it even less likely that they will make it. Yeah, it is in your best interest that they get worse. I mean, of course, that's the argument people make about the pharmaceutical industry, right? They're like, it doesn't really benefit them if people actually just like
get healthy.
Got fixed. Yeah, got healthy. It only helps them if we just trail it along. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a valid.
Cool. Well, that was my topic. There we are.
Yeah, I mean, we need to get some congressional members in our podcast and ask them why they aren't taking steps. You know, we need to shake a finger at them and tell them to get going. Placebo's going to run for Congress in a few years, right?
Kind of crazy to think about because like the more I just sit there and like just dwell on it, like we've been providing subsidies to people making, you know. So I understand when these things started, it was because of like the whole drought in the dust bin, and you know, they were trying to make ways to make food stretch, so it lowered the quality of food, providing subsidies for, you know, things like cereal makers who provide cheap filler crap for people to survive on. But it's weird because like that shit ain't healthy for you, and I mean, and it's a marketing thing because, you know, how many times did you grow up and see, you know, ads for Trix and Lucky Charms? And,
dude, we ranked cereals the other day, and how many of them were just
they're all
candy
just
in a bowl?
Yeah, there's pure sugar. It's cookies. They were all cookie. They're all versions of cookies.
Cookies and chocolate in a bowl. That was most of them, man.
So,
actually, I'm glad placebo was there because I think if it was just me and most people, almost all the sugaries would be at the top, and then the stuff like regular Chex Mix or Wheaties or regular Oreos would have been like somewhere at the bottom. But he was like, I actually like the kind of like not sweet blah blah blah, and he would kind of help me go, yeah, you're right, you should push that up there, because I mean, you know, he's our shining beacon of health. He works out and he eats healthy. He's a fit man. Motivation for all of us. That's why I eat tuna sandwiches today on multi-grain, fully bloomed organic bread or whatever it is. But no, yeah, I don't know. I guess you're right. Yeah, I don't know. I think that might be something we come back to. I would like to come back to that in a year and see what we think about it. As far as like this topic. I won't remember, but it's okay. I'll pretend like I'll remember now, and then I'll put it in your guys' brains, but you won't remember either. And we'll say we'll come back to it a year from now, and then not do that. Okay, good, great plan. We talked about the streamer, so I did want to get on this because there's some streamer stuff going on, and it's something that it's funny. I was doing some of this thinking about Ply because we have. One, I am now streaming, but also, you know, he's a streamer and it's kind of like an industry. But, so you had the Streamer Awards with QT Cinderella, and it got some pushback, and I think rightfully so, because at first they claimed it was 100% viewer voted, and people were pointing out like there's just no way, right? Like the numbers don't add up properly. Like there's people who have millions and millions of followers. They have 60 plus that. Like, so Asmongold didn't get anything, right? He is the stream put up their numbers. He was the number 2 most watched streamer on their platform.
Yeah,
he didn't get a single, like, you're telling me none, and he has a rabid fan base. Like, if you ever watch it, he has a massive fan base. And yet none of them were able to get out and vote. Like, so there, and then she kind of came out, well, yeah, there's like a 70% viewer voted and a 30% like committee, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, which, yeah. And so there's a lot of like, it basically started, people recognized, it seemed like always her friends and the little LA streamer crew always somehow were getting nominated so that people could vote for them over these like much larger streamers that maybe she didn't like or didn't agree with. And so that's where people go, well, it should be known that it's just her streaming awards. Because the way they advertise it is if it's like an industry-wide, the streamer awards for all streamers. Like there's some independent community that of investors that have created this, but it's hers. It's her, and her people decide who they like and who they put up for awards. And so she got a lot of pushback, and it was so fun. She did this like fake cry on stream about how traumatic it's been for her. Yeah, no, it was like, they're like, don't ever trust crazy people who can cry like on a drop of, can fake cry.
Leave Britney alone.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's the leave Britney alone, but it was like leave me alone. She was doing it on her own behalf. But it's weird because I'm seeing this tie into a lot of other streamer drama. That's just a part of the larger scale. You're seeing all these streamers now who were like all on the same side. Oh, they were best friends, laughing, tickle buddies. And now they're just like at each other's throats on social media, on their own podcasts, on their own streams. And I think and Train, I wonder if I got this. He made a comment, and I'm wondering if I got it. Let me pull it up over here. But he did not. So I did not. But anyway, what he said was basically like, yeah, this is who streamers are. Most of their
could not agree more. Thank you. That is wonderful. Could not possibly agree more than this is who streamers. I hate to say it because like you're getting into the industry, plies into the industry, they are undeveloped children, right? They are not well-adjusted adults.
They still act like they're in high school.
They are still basically in high, like mentally. They are not adults. They're not capable. They're not yet there. And yet we watch them and we expect them to behave any different than they're going to behave like they are. They're not developed. Yeah. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. Of course.
I guess I should say I don't want to, because I do think there are some elements of people who are genuine and stream and are decent, but it is by the nature. I think the platform does lead to that, right? Because it's giving people what they were looking for and missing, and a lot of it starts when you're in high school and you want that community. So that's what it sells. That is what streaming sells. It sells community. It sells connectivity. It sells fellowship, notoriety. You get seen by a community if you type or you subscribe, whatever, right? You get a call out. That feels good. Like the whole thing is built off of that emotional fix. So it is an entertainment industry just like any other, because I feel like movies tap into a lot of that too. But this does it a certain way, and it's just the people who got into it, the big ones, and again, the LA crew, the Asmongols, the Tectones. I mean, there's a lot of people that are kind of back and forth fighting each other now. I think I do think there were some people who were genuinely decent people, and they got hurt by it was like one good person who got connected with all that fakeness, and eventually they just got burned out, and then they got kind of burnt, but now they're telling on everybody, and you're watching everybody start to, dogs are eating themselves, it was dog eat dog world, right? They just starting to fight, and once the mask slipped away, all of a sudden, it was a avalanche of and it is. I just
but that all is just, it's all like there are people who have wronged me in my life that I have knowledge about, that I could go around and share and just dismantle, and you don't do it. right? You don't do it because you're a well-adjusted, well-functioning adult. Period. End of fucking story.
I have a question.
Right?
What if the thing that they did was sexual assault? And
Okay,
they've been
that's a bit
hiding it and
different.
than to get, and they've been getting
That's
famous.
A bit different. Yes,
Okay.
That's yes.
So we're talking
I will
about
grant
not
that
just
is-
being a douche,
However,
but being.
yeah. There's now you're not gonna like probably, but actually you probably will. Why not go to the police, right? Why post a video for the world to see? Why not go to the police and say, hey, I need to talk to you all about something, right? Usually people that were sexually assaulted tend to feel very poorly about that situation and feel a bit embarrassed that it happened to them. Not that they should, right? They, of course, but there's a sort of they want. It's very rare, I think, for someone to want to spread that around, and so I suppose I find myself confused at that whole scenario, right? Why not go to the? I feel like
The only thing I can think of is
normal
they don't
thing to
have
do.
evidence, but they know it happened. They saw it, but if it's just like I saw
All
it
the more
happen, isn't
reason
it?
to not. I mean,
Well, in other
why
words,
blast it publicly, right?
I get
don't
okay,
understand.
it's kind of like when you see someone succeed and you've been holding on to it, and you're like, people don't. They think this is some great person who is moral and just, and you don't want that person to get the social credit for being a moral, just person when you know they're junk. But you can't do. I mean, there's nothing legal you can do about it. You can't. You don't have a recording of it. You don't have anything that the police could use, but you just know it happened, and you're like, this person does not deserve the millions of dollars, the adoration of being a great moral paragon of society. Somebody needs to know that they are trash. I could see in that situation doing it, but I do think a lot of your motivation is what you're saying. It's petty. They got hurt, or they're angry and they don't want to see someone else succeed, right? Like it's all a lot of backbiting.
I think that's what that is when you're like, that person doesn't deserve it because they are this. I think that too it's the same, right? Like I don't know. To me, it feels the same.
I don't. Because I can see
There's
myself
like an
feeling
element
that,
of like maturity. Of course, I feel that way right now.
Well, isn't it a
about
lack
people
of
that I know,
justice
right? But
for someone to get, like? I feel
What
like
are-
that's trying to create
so
justice.
is you blasting them on social media.
Yeah,
That's not
and
justice.
ruining their reputation that they unjustly like they've developed it in that some level of, I guess it's vigilante justice. It's like online social vigilante justice.
It is. It's vigilantism. Yes, it is. I think you're right. I like that term. I think you're right.
And now I'm trying to decide because I'm usually not a fan of vigilante justice.
To me, it screams like not adult. It really does. I hate to keep harping on it, but
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah. It is a lot, but I do think, like, it's something about the way the streaming community developed that a lot of the people who got famous and got big were, well, I'll say this, right? A lot of them got famous when they were teenagers, and that's why they haven't developed. Right? Like, I think, like, if I go to Ply, I know he knows stuff about people. He's never said anything about it. He just says that they got to go, they leave. He treats it like it's a business. He's done a fantastic job. There's been people he's had to kick out of his community because they were doing some pretty dirty things behind the scenes, and he had to kick them out, but he didn't blast them. Yeah. They were moved, and he would be like, if somebody asked, he'd be like, well, they're no longer a part of our community. That's all he would say. Right? He handles it. But he was a full-grown adult with children when he started streaming, so he's already emotionally and psychologically developed. Some of these, especially these LA streamers, they were 17, 18 when they started streaming, and so they've just and then they got super famous off of it, right? So that further encourages that behavior and that mentality of like, I am right, and you have tens of thousands of people every day just, can I lick your titties, please? Let me lick your titties, right? And it makes you think, no matter what I do, it is correct. It builds that ego. And so, yeah, I think that's why you're seeing it with these people, because they haven't ever had to be in society where they're not seen as this, like, worshipped idol, and they haven't had to develop. They're not developed human beings, is quite frankly what it is. I see some other people, like, I think it's interesting, but the way Nick Merckx and Nadeshot, they've been upset with each other. I think the way they've handled that has been fairly adult. You know, like Nick's like, I don't want to play with him, but he won't go on and like just rip him all the time, right? Like Tim does a pretty good job of trying to bridge gaps and be the adult.
I
in the
was
group.
trying to think of like what streamers do I know of that are well-adjusted adults that I would, and like Tim is like one of 2 or 3 that come to my mind. It's such a small
It's so
pool,
sad, and I
right?
agree. Yeah. Like, I think, okay, I will say this. Burnt Peanut may be the best streamer in the game right now. Like, he is brilliant. He's blown up the way he thinks about entertainment and playing a role and making, like, catchphrases and stuff. Brilliant. But the man eats 4 Big Macs a day. And, you know, he lives, and when he's not eating Big Macs, he's eating, like, beef sticks and beer. And that is, like, his entire diet. And then the other day, he was like, guys, something's wrong. I'm feeling bad. So he had to end his stream early because he was feeling so bad. And he was like, I don't know if it was because I ate too many Big Macs. Or he's like, I think I'm going to try to get off here and eat something healthy to feel. But it's like, that's not adult, right? Like, if you're eating so bad that he was like, he was worried that he had killed himself on stream, basically. I mean, he was talking like, something's wrong, guys. I got to get off stream. You know, there's a moment where like, he didn't develop. You know, like, there's a point where you got to, I don't know. It is interesting that is an element of. I think there's more. I just think the mature ones aren't getting seen either, right? Like
Probably. Yeah.
they're not as. They're not getting pushed by the algorithm as much. There's some elements there that, like, you know, there's probably a few more adults in the room that just aren't. They're not getting as famous because the way the system is set up. You co-stream with, if you get in those like circles, it shoots you up because you take some of their fans and they come and watch you, and it's like it's hard to break in.
I think that's probably the answer. The adults are like, no, I'm not going in that room. I'm not going to go over there. Why would I go there? They're a bunch of children. Why would I engage with that? And I think they're right to stay away. I think they do stay away.
What about you?
Tim on streams with them.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, Tim has been with Burnt Peanut, but they I think they all understand that is entertainment. Yeah, the LA. Well, I think the whole, like, here's the problem, and Dan Clancy even talked about this. The streaming environment has completely shifted to where it's not as much about playing. It's not gamers trying to be entertaining for people. It's entertainers just going out there, and then every now and then they might play a game. But a lot of these people, they don't even play games. They cook together, and they show each other, ooh, we're drinking wine on the veranda. Ooh, don't you wish you were part of the Mean Girls table like we are? You know, that's literally their whole stream. It's just like, we're the Mean Girls table, don't you? But you can be a part of it now. You didn't get to be a part of it in high school, and you looked at the pretty girls at the table who, you know, mocked you. But if you subscribe for $6.99 and give me some bits, we'll make you feel like you were one of us the whole time. That's the whole, and you know, they talk about don't be parasocial, which they don't even know what that means, but what they mean is don't be sexual towards me is what they actually mean. But then they show up with the tits pushed up, perfect makeup, short shorts with this much of the booty meat hanging out the back, and then they're like, and they get, oh, thank you so much for the subs, thank you so much. But then if someone's like, I want to sniff your feet, they're like, stop being parasocial. It's like, shut the fuck up. You don't have a career if they're not parasocial, bitch. Like, you are broke living with your parents without parasocial relationships. But I mean, I guess that's the case with all streaming. Streaming in general is kind of a parasocial environment, but I don't know. Like, I do think there is something to that like that particular brand of streaming that has blown up. Or the Hassan Asmongold, the like semi-political, you know, where they're just really choosing one side of the political spectrum, and then they're just like hard going on it. I think that's what's blowing up, but that's where you're seeing the least amount of like development, and you know, it's no longer about like making it feel like you're part of people just playing games and it's all good fun. There's a little more, the social element is becoming more and more exaggerated. And so, you know, it's fulfilling that social fantasy I think people had from high school, scratching an itch, if you will. But I don't know. Go ahead. I want to evil talk. He's been sitting there smirking for about 30 minutes straight.
I'm just absorbing everything. I mean, the platform is kind of a joke whenever you've got like actual porn stars who use Twitch as kind of like a gateway in between getting more content. And oh, hey, guess what? I've got this OF page over here. You should come view all of my stuff. And you know, there are genuine. Oh god, there are genuine creators out there, but the more genuine they are, the less notoriety they tend to receive. So I think probably the largest example of that I watch would be something like Sheriff Eli, who is a content creator, and he makes a community out of like first responders and emergency responders and that kind of thing.
That's kind of cool.
And other than that, I have to watch like small time like dungeon master creation content people who get, you know, a dozen people in there at a time. Like those kind of communities, when they're that small, they go under the radar. That's when people tend to be more like real with things. I mean, Peanut is literally, it is a character crafted for you to see. It is an entertainment character.
So is Ply, though, right?
His antics.
So is Ply.
Yes,
it's a character he plays on screen.
You can't look at Peanut and not know that just by looking.
It's honest. That's what I would say about Peanut.
Yes.
It's honest. He's not pretending that this character he's playing is him. He's letting you know, I'm a fucking Peanut, people. You know, like, yes, I get it. Yeah.
Right. Not that Ply is dishonest.
No.
But it just especially knowing him like outside of his streams, like he's very high energy person. Like he takes a lot of those characteristics.
Ply is an exaggerated version of John. That's what I would say.
Yes.
It's some of his personality traits turned up to 11. And he knows that. And I do agree. He said, like, anybody who watches his stream should eventually come to the conclusion that that's him playing a role. That's him playing a character. You know, he's like, oh, guys, don't do it, when clearly he wants you to do it. And, oh, I'm so frustrated right now. Ooh, you know, like, he plays it up like a WWE character. After a while, you should be able to, if you have a moderate IQ, you're going to recognize that he's being silly, and the chat knows he's being silly, and they're playing into it, right? Like, no one actually thinks, you know, this man is genuinely upset that I have just paid $7 to play a silly song on his stream. Oh, I will make his life miserable. I will do it again. You know, like, that's not the actual relationship they have. That's, I guess I was going to say is I did want to mention, because Rage pointed out, like, Stone Mountain. I think Stone Mountain does a great job of being an adult in the room and being genuine, but he plays that role. Remember when he got famous on YouTube? I don't know if people even remember, but he used to do those videos where he would play like a commander, like a military commander while playing Battlefield. He'd be like, A70501, we're going to go mention, and then he would do it for the whole round, and that's how he got famous. But but people recognized, it was funny. It was clearly a role. He was clearly playing a character, and everybody had fun with it.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's good.
But when as a person, I think he is genuinely an adult. He doesn't get into drama. He just plays the game. And he's fairly large, right? He's not huge.
There are a couple. I'm not saying there are not. There are some ones out there that are good, but I do think by and large the ones, whenever there's Twitch drama, and there's so much of it, you know, it's not the adults that are beefing with each other, you know. Usually it's not the well-adjusted adults being like, hey,
right. You don't see Stone Mountain and Tim almost ever in beef.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not even like the streamers themselves. Sometimes it's the community trying to like.
That's
make
true
shit.
too. That is true too.
What, Peanut? You haven't played with Gingy for 2 days? Are you in a fight?
Did you cheat on your girlfriend with her? Is that what? I mean, people will say the craziest shit and start it. Like, they actually start. I've seen Nick Merckx and Tim and them start to talk about that more. Like, if they make a joke about each other and they play fight on the thing, and anybody who's moderately intelligent can tell. Or like one time, Tim's internet went out and he just quit, and then Nick was like, "Uh-oh, we're gonna be on Twitter now." Because they're going to start saying that, you know, Tim quit playing with me because he got so angry, and now for the next 3 days, we're at each other's throat, and it's going to blow up. Because they just know there's a certain level of, like, you can't control, when you have tens of thousands of people watching you, you can't control, and people aren't smart enough to check the source, right? They're not like, oh, a viewer said a dumb thing, maybe this isn't true. You know, that's how social media functions. People just believe what they read first go. So, no, I guess I was just agreeing with you and adding more on top of what you're saying, that the adults in the room tend to not be in the drama.
You almost have to have those like over the top Peanut reactions where he's like,
yeah. See, I think it's funny when he looks in the camera. He's like, somebody says something stupid and he just looks in the camera like.
Always pick up the social cues, so you know, maybe that's why they're watching streams.
That's right. The funny thing is, I'm usually not into like overly lavish, like overly excited streamers, but I find Peanut genuinely like. There's a little bit much, but he's mostly entertaining to me. I do actually enjoy watching him. But I was gonna say, I think that's similar to Hollywood, though, right? Like a lot of the Hollywood, it's just, you know, actors are rarely who they seem to be on camera or in.
Did you hear? What's Ana de Armas was dating Tom Cruise, right?
Okay.
Which was wild to begin with because he's like 62 and she's like 35 or something like that, right? And she's hot and I mean he's somewhat, but
I mean he's still
he's older, man. He's still attractive, yeah.
She was given, I believe, a prenup that was about like 30 something pages.
Oh yeah,
right?
Well, I mean yeah.
And it was like, you know, if we have kids, Tom will have sole decision on what religion they go into, and she will join him for his meditations at least 2 times out of the 5 times a week he does it in the morning. And it was like, it was super fucking weird, right?
Yeah.
Super bizarre.
Tom is a fantastic actor. I will never take away from him. He is absolutely But these people in Hollywood, I'd say about 80-85% are just wackadoodles. Especially once they've been in Hollywood for like a few years, enough to have to get in those social and to fit into those social groups and to be famous on a long-term basis. I think it causes one of two things. You either become the wacko or you kind of go like Rob Schneider or something like, even like Mark Wahlberg, where you moved your family out of it and you kind of got out of that. You're like, I don't want anything. These people are shitty, crazy, awful.
Great parallel.
Yeah. And so you get,
parallel.
you know, you just get like 2 sides of it. And I think that's just entertainment in general. Some people can handle, I'm playing a role, but I also, I know when to be a good person. I know when to be genuine. And I think some of these people playing a role so long genuinely psychologically fucks with them. And they start to lose the ability to like know the difference between reality and what they're doing in their head or what they think they're putting out there in the social.
I think The Rock has become more of a thing on the basis of the characters that he's played, for sure. I think Ryan Reynolds has become more of a thing on the basis of the characters that he's played, for sure. I hope it's not the same with Denzel. I really like Denzel, I think that he's sort of the exception here.
Yeah.
But,
well, because like didn't Ryan Reynolds, he got like a big trouble because of the way him and his wife tried to strong arm.
The Baldoni shit is crazy.
Yeah, like if you look into it, they were just absolute assholes. Like they were genuinely bad people. But everybody thinks of them as being like these kind, because like he comes across like in interviews like he's just a funny guy. He's your best friend, and then you look behind the scenes and they were like threatening her and trying to use all their influence to like ruin her life, even though she was legally in the right. And it was just like they were like trying to it was wild. I would have, you know what? I'll do some research on it because I remember reading about it and going, "Whoa, this is crazy," but I don't have it in front of me to like exactly quote and know that I am getting it 100% right. So maybe, but for the sake of larger example, yes, there are people who present themselves even in interviews in supposedly real, genuine environments, right? Because the interview is supposed to be where like, oh, I'm talking to the actor, not the character, right? Like that's when you're supposed to be getting that, but you're not, right? That's the reality is they're still playing a character.
I think they flow in and out of it a lot, right?
Like I still don't think that's even real them. That's like there's a third person. There's a character that they play which is public real them. But but that's not actually real them. That's just another character. Then there's whatever character they're playing in the movie, and then there's the real them that exists underneath it, and it's part of some weird sex cult, right? Like, I remember, you remember all those people that were part of that sex cult that who was it? Was the guy that played the Flash?
The Smallville people.
Oh yeah, the Smallville. That's what it was. The Smallville, where like the women would get branded, and like some of the women were like recruiting other women into the sex cult of this guy that was like, he was like some actor in the group that like had them all coming in, and it was crazy. It was wild. Like,
I did not know.
Oh yeah.
I'm not too surprised, but I did not know.
Oh yeah, but they start to become the character they play. Yeah, exactly. I do think that's it. I think.
Yeah, their personalities mold when they like the way a character. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, Johnny Depp is kind of Captain Jack a little bit now.
A little bit,
and,
yeah.
You know, he liked the character, right? Yeah,
I
becomes
think
him.
the Flash guy was caught like not exactly kidnapping a underage girl, but it was like it's very close to that.
Let me look it up real quick.
Man,
What trouble did the guy who plays the Flash get into? Ezra Miller, the actor who played the Flash, faced several legal troubles, including charges of disorderly conduct, harassment I just turned down the thing so I can't, burglary in Hawaii, then burglary in Vermont, and allegations of assault and abuse. Ezra Miller, ultimately pleaded guilty to unlawful trespassing in Vermont, which resulted in 1 year probation of 500. Miller stated they are undergoing treatment for mental health issues. So he basically copped to a lesser, legally he got out of it. Basically, is what happened.
Yeah.
But,
I think they were accusing him of like trying to groom someone. So.
yes, he was also part of a grooming thing. He's done multiple things. That's what this is telling me. He's actually been caught once for throwing a chair at a woman at a karaoke bar. Then he was charged felony burglary. He stole alcohol from a neighbor's house, like expensive alcohol from a neighbor's house. And I'm trying to see more. But anyway, it's just, I mean, this is funny. People Magazine, a timeline of Ezra Miller's recent controversies. So he has so many, they have to separate his old controversies with his new ones. Like, I mean, anyway, it's fascinating that, like, I'm thinking about, like, K-pop, right? This is, because I don't think it's just even their, like, on-screen characters, because you're taught to be, like, right? You always have a certain persona when you're in public. The girls are meant to be bubbly and happy, and the guys are supposed to be kind of goofy, but also kind, and they all have this stuff. There's a lot of clips online of them forgetting, like, even when they were doing a live stream, one guy was like, one member told, like, a joke about the other member, and the other member was like, and gave him this, like, really, like, fuck you face, and then he realized he made it on camera, and he just started cackling like, oh no, I made the fuck you face, and they all started laughing about it, because you're never supposed to show, like, disgust or being upset with other people, and so you're taught to play a character even when it's you, right? Like, people are supposed to believe you are actually this character. I think that fucks with people's mentality, like their actual psychology, to a huge degree. That's why you see people like Britney Spears, who now are like dancing with wild eyes, messy hair, with a knife in their hand, sexy in underwear, you know, in their own live streams. It's like that much disassociation. Just, there's not everybody's brain can handle it, and they just crack.
I completely agree.
Oh, wait, Rage is spitting facts for us here. It was Allison Mack. She was recruiting people to the sex cult. She was the Smallville actress, so that's who was doing the sex cult. Was
I
Allison
think
Mack.
she was trying to recruit, I think, Kristen Crook, and that was the actual, like, Lana girl in the Superman thing, in the Smallville thing.
That's so fast.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of weird. People are not who they seem on. Anytime you see, here's another one. This happens on a micro level. When I went out with the, when I was like 25, 26, I can't remember, and I was writing a magazine article about a local band that was like touring kind of the Southeast, but they were doing like small places, right? They weren't doing like a big tour, but they're big enough that people knew who they were. They're kind of starting to get like some radio play, and I went on tour with them. I knew them. I wrote an article about them in the local paper, and then I kind of got to know them through that and befriended them. Cool dudes, but there was like, it was funny watching them turn on kind of some personas when it was like, all right, we're getting out of the van, we're going to public, here's who we are now. And it was very interesting seeing that they, you know, it was just like, even in a small, not on the internet, not on TV doing big interviews, just on a small, every time they go to a venue, they knew, now we turn on our personalities. And it's just wild to see, like, and then everybody thought that who they pretended to be, that was them. And they'd be like, oh, you guys are so sweet and you're so cute. And didn't realize that, like, behind the scenes, these dudes were like, these people are fucking sluts, you know, like you know, and it's just wild that people just assume people in a entertainment based system are being genuine with them. I think it's I don't know. It's tough. I mean, I want to be genuine. I think I try to be, for the most part, genuine. You know, I think our podcast is genuine. I mean, I believe you guys are honest with your opinions. You seem accurate to who you are offline. I try to be, even when I stream, I try to be basically the same person I would be otherwise. I don't know. It's just, it's interesting. I think there's some people who are capable of being, or who are comfortable and they're able to be themselves in a like public setting, and then there's other people who just aren't.
I mean, there are people that wear masks for their own family. Like, there's there's always a potential that someone is not being completely 100% with you, and I feel like the closer they are to that, it tends to involve the same trait that a lot of these streamers have, and it falls back to narcissism. I
think that's true too. Yeah,
that's kind of a key character component to a lot of this. So
I do think that has something to do with streamer culture as well, right? Like, people want to engage with people that they feel represent them. A lot of times, and so you got to put that out there. Let's talk one more thing, because I think we beat this poor horse into the ground. There was one interesting thing I thought that was genuinely going to be impactful, and I don't think it's just for gaming, but it will obviously have a big plot, which is AI. They've already said that this is happening. AI is taking up all the memory. So if you do RAM is going to double in price over the next 6 months. They've already said that's going to happen. If you have the what's the thumb drive? Not thumb drives. Oh gosh, my brain. It's a hard drive that I have, and it's like a flat thing.
Solid state?
Yeah, solid state, but it's SSD. But what's the one that's like flat and it's like a little. All right. Chat, help me out. What's it called? There's a certain term, NVMe. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like M2 drives.
Yeah, M.2 drives. That type of fast access memory. Also, I think it'll end up hitting graphic cards with their VRAM. That's where the price will come in for. Anyway, it's supposed to double, and so. I've seen a lot of people saying, like, if you think that you might need to upgrade, you better do it now, because it's going to cost twice as much in a few months, because all these AI companies are buying up all the memory to develop to put in their programs and to run their AI. But what this is really coming into is talking about the Steam machines and the new Xboxes. There's insider sources saying that Xbox is freaking out about this, because they were already going to struggle to put out their new Xbox was already like way overpriced, and people are already complaining about it. That was before this, so this is going to shoot the pricing for computer gaming, for console gaming. I mean, like the Steam box. We talked about the Steam box, or the Steam machine that's coming out. They don't know what they're going to do with the pricing with that, because they were going to struggle to keep it at 800, and that's probably going to be around like 10, 1200 now because of the different changes. I don't know. I just, we always talk about how AI messes with things. I think this is another element that people didn't see coming, is that in order for it to run, these large, huge corporations that, use massive amounts of resources, they use rare minerals, right, to make computer parts. And so when an industry just blows up out of nowhere the way AI use has, and like, because I know Jeff Bezos just started his own AI company. So there's another one that's popped up, and it'll take up more resources. It's like, you have to kind of function and realize, like, it absorbs more. It's not just your job or whatever. It's also like materials. It's just an interesting way that I wonder how in 10 years gaming will look. Or if it may be good. It may reset. Because, right, we kind of got into a pattern where it was like every 2 years you got a new graphics card because they came out with something new and you could just keep doing it at a certain price point. I'm wondering if this will make it so overly expensive that the life cycle of the parts you buy are going to be like the generational cycle will last longer. And the same maybe for consoles. Like, you may not be able to upgrade consoles as quickly. It won't be a PlayStation, and then 4 later is the PlayStation Pro, and then 4 years after that a PlayStation Pro Plus. Like, I'm wondering if this will cause just how survival they will have to stay at a hardware level and try to make the adjustments on the software side. Any thoughts? Any thoughts at all? Anything?
Well, it's funny to see like where the actual limits for these technological R&D like speeds can get, because we've been under the assumption that the internet can't actually get any faster, and I think there was a fairly recent article within like the last couple of years that someone's actually been able to kind of bypass that hard maximum that we thought there was on the internet. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if there's any actual consistency to that. I don't know if they're actually producing anything, but it would be interesting to see, because during the last the last explosion that we had, which was the whole crypto thing, we saw the same thing with graphics cards. So
yeah,
just to see the potential avenues that AI could actually go into, there's probably a bit more of a threat to the market increase being more consistent and staying a bit longer, because crypto obviously has some pretty large downsides that people weren't willing to continue going down that avenue, and to keep building crypto farms and shit like that. But
didn't the card makers eventually put limits, or they like somehow tweaked it to where you couldn't like overdo it for the crypto?
They started to, but that was just because there's so much backlash in the communities, because they couldn't access.
Nobody other than crypto farmers could get it. Yeah.
The card makers were making bank on this thing. All of their new cards were being purchased mass quantities by a few people. So it wasn't until like hard limits came down on these things that we started seeing that market stabilize afterwards. And we still, I mean, obviously inflation's a thing, but those increases really haven't ultimately come down that much, because we saw such an explosion of price in those things. But yeah, no, RAM is definitely going to go up, and it's funny because Jacob, Loki Hunter, one of our friends, was commenting just a few weeks ago about how the prices were so much higher than 6 months ago, and that's something that I hadn't even heard then.
It already raised some. Yeah.
So the pure fact that we already have,
we've already had an increase, and there's going to be more. Yeah.
We've already seen these things in effect. So what does the kitty have to say about this?
Yeah.
She's very concerned about the current state of the gaming industry
Yeah.
and console prices and VRAM and AI and the
I'm proud of you.
MW3s and
You
the
remembered all this.
Super and the Candor F2s, and I'm just
Yeah.
very concerned about the USS Gillespie. USS Gillespie, that's a tough one. I don't know how it's going to affect us in the long run.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting because I do know that most of the community that watches this are into gaming, so I do think it will affect people. But I don't. You just have to hope that there'll be some sort of adjustment, right? Like you do, like either the government comes in or social pressure comes in and forces there to be some sort of an adjustment to where it's like all of because I mean, here's the thing: computers for school will become more. Laptops are going to be more expensive. All of that will become more expensive. This isn't just gaming computers; it's everything will be more expensive, and so our school's just going to start using older and older computers and keep holding them. Is our students not going to be able to buy new laptops for their classes? That kind, how's this? I think it's going to have bigger, and eventually those larger social pressures will affect this element to where they're going to have to do something about it. To make things affordable again. But it may take a while and take it to the point where it is like parents can't buy their kid the required whatever, or schools can't update their computers, and so kids are not being able to have computer labs or whatever. It may take something like that to push it back down. We may have to suffer for a few years until it becomes a larger social problem. All right, well, go ahead.
I was just saying that we're probably a little bit safe because like a lot of those critical minerals are more in tune with like GPUs and actual like processing heads rather than quick memory. But I mean the market always bounces back afterwards. It's just how long is it going to take? I mean, when Obama went out and bought 100,000 units of bullets. The cost of ammunition,
I remember that, yeah.
and the availability of ammunition was almost non-existent. So I mean, it took a couple years for manufacturing to catch up to that. So it's just what is the infrastructure like? How many of these things are we going to be importing? Because there's some tariff and trade things also going on. How's that going to affect things? It's a market balance. It's just a question of how long it's going to take. That's it.
Brilliant. All right, I got a question from the peoples for you guys. They love you and they think you're amazing. They haven't said any of that. I can just sense it from them.
Press X to doubt.
Yeah. I can sense it from them that they love you so much. They said they especially love the cuddly one in the top right. They said, "Oh, I'll kiss his feet all day." And then they said that bottom one, "Oh, I'm going to just ride him all night long." And then, but this is actually
I just get feet kissed and he gets ridden.
Yeah,
like, what's going on here?
I can't.
My toe fungus ain't that bad.
Maybe your feet are sexier. I don't know.
Anyway.
Yeah, I don't either. But I don't get that either. But teach their own. I was making things up for the story. Let me make you weirdly sexual. I'm gonna start bringing in like graphics that puts like weird GIF masks on your face and stuff during the podcast. Anyway, here's a question. So somebody wanted you to. What was your opinion on the second Nintendo Switch? The pricing on it and the copyright clause making it not able to get hard copies of the game. I'm gonna let Evil talk about it for a little bit. Wait. Take in the placebo. Oh yes. So go ahead because I gotta pee. So please, I know Placebo neither cares nor knows anything about it, so I'm putting all the pressure on you.
I know a little bit about
okay,
Nintendo
well then you two
laws,
fucking talk for a second while I go use the bathroom because I was about to end the podcast, but then they asked a question, felt a little obligated because they've kind of hung out for the whole time, so it's like chit chat. Do your thing.
Go ahead with what you know, because I'd be interested to see what you are aware of.
So the general broad strokes idea that I know is that you are now not allowed to, like, you don't ever own the games. You pretty much just like kind of rent the games,
Yeah.
And any sort of tampering in any way with either the system or the games or anything like that can lead to them just totally revoking all access from you, right? So like if you're playing like a single player game, a Fire Emblem game or something, and you decide, oh, I lost this guy in the fight and I don't want to do, so I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna mess with it and I'm gonna go back and now I have this guy again for the fight because that's how I want to play with my toy, right? They're gonna be they have the power of saying no, no, no. That is not how you play with the toy you are renting from us. You now cannot play with that toy ever again. We ban you. That is the broad strokes thing that I know about it. That's it. So
Hmm.
I don't know if you have
Interesting.
anything.
I mean, I was just trying to think of the differences between them, and I really. So I've purchased digital only games from the whatever
As I
Nintendo
have too.
Mart.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and they've always said like, hey, that you don't actually own this. It's just a, and they were retro games, so it's not like I was, intending on playing it for a super long time. It's just
Mm-hmm.
the Switch is for me just a traveling and mobile game. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's um so I guess I never don't really have that issue, but I understand where it would make people balk at it because their main title games that they'd be playing fall under that consideration. But I think it always has on the Nintendo market, so I don't see an issue
Yeah.
there.
It is. I think it's Nintendo being a bit. What's the word like? Greedy. Overly controlling, right? Like I am not the type of guy to ever mess with a game and like when they changed it to where like if you mess with one of your games now we can take you off of all of them. I was like that's fine. I'm never going to do that, right? That's just
Right.
I will just
Yeah.
play the game, right? But there is a sort of weird like overreaching hand from Nintendo, I think. Uh, I think they are growing in bad guy status is sort of my only real conclusion about it. Their bad guy status is multiplying and multiplying by the day.
I don't know. I just see that as such a net neutral thing because they've had code in the original Nintendo Switch that when people go in and like buy, I forget what it's like, hot. It's not hot boxing. It's like
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I
The
can't
action
think of the
replay?
word.
Is it an action replay that you would put on?
That was
Right?
in essence what they're breaking the system
Yeah.
in order to put stuff like that on it, or to play free games or whatever. They just download,
Yeah.
you know, Nintendo had code in there that would 100% brick these systems, so that once they found, hey, you've got a home spliced unit, like this is what we're doing to you now, and you would have to go to Nintendo to get it fixed. So I don't. I guess they're just more open and honest about it up front, and that's I think what people are not liking because they didn't actually understand what was going on in the back for
Yeah.
these systems already.
Maybe.
So
I don't really, like I said, I only know a little bit, but like, I think back to like the original Pokemons, right? On your like a Game Boy, right? And you're like you
hmm
run around. There was like an infamous glitch or something where you get like missing
yep,
no or something, right? Where
yep.
and there's all sorts of neat little and you can mess with it. And I guess I'm just thinking, well, that's not a thing anymore. You're not allowed to do that anymore, right? That'll brick your machine, and that sort of avenue for gameplay is gone.
So the problem with that is there were actually those were things that you could do inside the game itself. Like that was stuff that you just you broke the original code of the
Hmm.
OG game, and like it wasn't like Action Replay or King. Can't think of
Right. You
the
didn't
King
need any
Fisher.
external.
Right, systems that put
Yeah.
their cheats in and alter code of the game as it's playing through the system.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, Rage points out that Nintendo's also claiming ownership of the console, not just the game. So they're also saying that like the console, even though you buy it and you physically have the object, like it's not necessarily yours. It's just, they can brick it.
Yeah, that's sort of what we. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was the argument I
Because
was
it's
kind of
theirs to break.
curious at was what do you think about the push towards right like that one famous kind of evil Bond villain financier was talking about how you will own nothing and you will like it, right?
Mhm.
This is kind of a push towards that, right? Like you don't actually own anything. You're right. Like even now, your car, like the cars now have rental services for stuff as basic as air conditioning, where you have to pay for. It's like
It's tough because like I do think it is bad, right? Obviously, I think it's actually quite obviously bad, but I also agree with the sort of like Eastern religious ideal that, the suffering is attachment, right? And when you sort of so like I don't know, man. It's tough because it takes a real mindset shift to be, it's one thing to detach yourself. It's another to have things taken from you.
yes,
So okay, so this is a part of the EULA. So if the users fail to comply with the restrictions, then you have no say in the device itself or the services. So it's only after you break these conditions that. So
do you think it's setting the framework so that in the future they can say you're taking advantage of an in the game glitch? Because like some online shooters do that, right? Like if you're doing a game breaking glitch that creates more resources.
Sure.
In a game like Rust or something, like I don't know, I can't remember. There's like MMOs sometimes do this too.
Yeah.
Or if you find a duplication glitch, that's what I was trying to say. They're like, oh, we didn't intend for that. Everybody who does this glitch from here on, we're wiping your account because they've done that in the past before. I think that's kind of what you can see happening here. Is like, oh, you found the Pokemon glitch inside the game. We didn't intend for you to do that. Anybody who's done it, your game gets wiped now.
Well, the problem I have there is most of that kind of stuff tends to fall back onto the game and their servers and their regulations of it. So if the games are struggling so bad that they're asking Nintendo to put this into their system, which very well could be a thing because system securities and the like are struggling with being able to maintain the amount of people that are online and active and accessing everything. So if they're suffering that bad that they need Nintendo to come in and play daddy, then I'd say that's a problem. But that's a whole different kind of animal, I think, than what we're actually looking at in expansive EULA properties. End user license agreement, the EULA.
Yes.
Okay. Just in case people on.
No, I got that one.
Don't
no
actually-
USS Gillespie here. I got you on that one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I got something for you guys. Got a couple. And this is for chat too. Tell me your answers. $10 million right now in your hand, but there's a catch. And I'm sure you've heard this before, but a snail is chasing you for the rest of your life, and if it touches you, you die a terrible death. The snail cannot be killed. It knows your location at all times, and its only purpose is to find you. Do you take the $10 million?
Sure.
Okay, you got a sure from evil.
Is it the reason it's a snail is because it moves slowly?
It moves super slowly. That's the idea.
I'm assuming it can okay. Information question. I'm here in Florida right now.
Uh-huh.
I take the 10 million. A snail spawns in Georgia, we'll say. I fly to England. Buy a house in England.
Uh-huh.
Can the snail does the snail go along the ocean floor and down the trench and back up and along?
Or does the snail slink onto a boat, let the boat take him across the Atlantic Ocean?
Yeah.
And then slink off the boat? Like, how high intelligence does this snail have?
I need to know this information. If the snail is going on the boat, I do not take the money. If the snail is going down the trenches and on the ocean floor, I take the money.
What if this? The snail always has to do snail things on solid land, but across water, it gets to take boats. Because here's what I would say. You can do the same thing with, like, go to California and buy a house in California. You fly out there, you wait till the snail, because how long would it take a snail to go across the entire country? Or a year? 2 years?
I would spend like a year in England and then a year
That's exactly what I was thinking. Then wait till it gets there, and then you just go back, and yeah.
Right? That's what I would do.
I thought that I actually thought that. That's exactly what I thought. But then I started thinking, what if you wanted to start a family? I think it'd be okay if you get a wife. I think like just your wife would be okay with that same schedule. But once you started having kids, they would develop friendships in the school, and having to have them switch every year would like fuck with things.
I'd switch them every year.
Just go ahead and say this is life now.
No problem.
Yep.
Yeah, no problem.
You're going to come back in 2 years, and you're going to be such a different, more grown person, and you're going to see these people, and they will be, they'll be there, and reinvent yourself. A-okay. I love it. I would have no problem with that.
Okay. Ray says homeschool.
That's a good option.
Yeah, homeschool and teaching them to be
for
online
the
gaming
Mars
nerds. So all their
project.
friends are online, and it doesn't matter where they live.
I'd volunteer for the Mars project.
Yeah,
That way,
the Mars.
you know,
Yeah, there you go.
the snail
Good
would have
luck,
to make
Snail. Good
through
luck with that
NASA.
one.
Okay. Now, I think it seems like most people are on the, well, at least in this I haven't seen anybody type in
Yeah, once
chat
I start
if they
losing,
would or would
like,
not take it, but take the money.
losing
Okay.
the ability to poop or pee in my own, then I'm going to hunt the snail down and be like, all right, dude, you just gotta.
That's true. There's a free. I don't. Would that still count as suicide though? Like morally, spiritually, if you did an action that you knew would lead you, even if it was the result of the snail. If you went to the snail and you were like, you let it touch you, knowing that it would kill.
That's
the
the
intent.
train tracks is suicide. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So. Now you want to talk about some religious stuff? No, I'm just playing. We'll move on to the next.
Better than dying in my own feces, man.
I don't know. That's what I was doing. I was looking at my social media. Here's a statement. I'm interested what you think about this. Pride keeps people broke more often than laziness does.
I might agree with it. God, they're both killers, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. That's what I was saying. I was thinking they're both potently killers. Like they both. I think oftentimes they come hand in hand too. Like I think they can kind of feed off of each other.
Pride is such a social thing, though. Like, whereas laziness is just debilitating across the board. Like,
I don't know,
laziness
man.
is a
I think-
non-starter.
See, I think laziness created some of the greatest inventions we've ever had. People didn't want to do the hard work, and so they came up with some sort of invention that made them do less work. And then we're like, oh, then they become billionaires because like they were like, I didn't want to do it the hard way. So I took a little bit of time to figure out a way to not have to do it the hard way.
Yes, there is the maxim of give the most difficult job to the laziest person, and he'll find you the most efficient way to do it. Yes, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying. So pride, I think a lot of laziness comes from pride too. Like people get overwhelmed by the idea of failing, and so it makes them less apt to. I think that's what happens to me a lot of times. I will put stuff off because it's just like the stress of like having to. It's not that I like actually. It's like, does this actually have a payoff? Is this really gonna? It's like I think there's a little bit of that like plays in as well.
As you can see, all of the unsorted stuff in my gun room. that I mean, still have not sorted and
I need
put
to
up.
adjust my wall back there. Apparently, this angle you get to see a bit of the green screen behind it. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I thought it was interesting because I do think pride does keep people from doing things like starting at the bottom when you feel like you're better, but also like I had to do that with me in streaming. I feel like a lot of the reasons I did not have as much success the first time around is I got a little too prideful, and I was too worried about for an X amount of time what people thought of me. And instead of going, it doesn't really matter. Like, get yours, and then the people who know you in real life, your close friends, they know the truth. And sometimes it's that's all that matters. You know, you got your people on your side, and then everyone else can go F themselves. You know.
You know what actually comes to my mind when you say this is there are probably 5 or 6 Gordon Ramsay shows, right? There's Hell's Kitchen, there's MasterChef, but the other ones, if you've ever seen like Hotel Hell and Kitchen Nightmares, that is some of the funniest television you will ever see. And every episode has the exact same formula, right? These people call Gordon to say, our restaurant is failing and we can't figure out why. We can't figure out what's going wrong. And he goes in and it is a fucking disaster. It is, I mean, they're not doing one thing right.
Yeah.
But they are very, very sure that they are doing the right thing and they don't know why people aren't coming to their restaurant.
Yes.
Right? And I guess that's the sort of paradigmatic in my mind, like pride holding people back. Because I think that happens all the time, right? Like they think, yes, I'm doing this right. I'm doing this right. I'm doing that. And it's like the inability to adapt and to maybe... I think it's actually probably the inability to look with humility on one's previous actions and figure out what they could have done differently, right? Like that's the skill that's going to lead to success. Yeah. That pride holds you back from figuring out what you could have done better.
I think that's mostly true.
I think that right there is a skill that almost no one has. So I'm gonna go with it. Pride kills more than laziness. Yes, I'm with it.
I feel like the only factor where a lazy person would do better than a prideful one is in the extremely high intelligence. I'm sorry, but like an average person busting their ass over an average person like not wanting to reach out for help, the one that's busting their ass is going to get what they're aiming for 9 times out of 10. Higher.
I don't know about that.
The other one.
Okay, higher than the other one. I will grant that. Yes, higher than the other one, but 9 out of 10 I won't.
Okay, so Rage gave a side where he's like, you can be lazy and still end up holding down a job, but getting over your pride to ask for a job, or especially one that maybe you think you're too good for, but asking for a job often is a hurdle that's like too hard to get over.
I don't know.
There's so many avenues where it's like you don't have to make money by working for someone now. Like that's just such a
every environment I've worked in has had very prideful people, you know, and they hold down the jobs just fine.
Yeah,
they're there, you know. And now they were also lazy, so I don't know where that fits in, you know.
I was gonna say both often comes in.
Hitting it front of the ass, all right.
It is interesting. Yeah. Gosh, it's tough. I do think some of laziness does stem from pride, though. I think, and maybe some pride.
But I think pride is a defense mechanism from laziness, right? Yeah. Like, you know, like, oh, I didn't get this because I'm lazy, but I wouldn't have gone for that anyway.
Yeah, right? Yeah. There's another. Yeah, it explains it away. Yeah. Because we all know that laziness is a vice, right? Like laziness is known socially to be a vice. So pride would make it to where you wouldn't admit that you're lazy. You would find another reason. Because I think you see that in other, I would say certain cultural groups in the U.S. as well. You find it can't be my fault. So it must be your fault or society's fault or the man's fault or, you know, somebody made a decision that is not, it wasn't that I did anything wrong. It wasn't that I made, I'll give you a great example. Dude, a 17-year-old kid broke into a man's house at night. He got shot. Yeah. The mom is now suing the guy, saying that, like, he was in the wrong for defending his house, and saying, well, you think your stuff is more important than my kid's life. Instead of going, maybe your fucking kid shouldn't be breaking into people's homes at night. You know, like, because they don't know if the kid's in there to be... You don't have enough time to decide if they're trying to stab you, rape you, shoot you. You know, like, if somebody's inside your home...
Yeah.
Like... That should be a known factor. You don't go into someone else's domicile unless you are willing to take the risk that they're going to blast you, you know? But the fact that their thinking was it's your fault for shooting someone who's inside your house robbing from you or just inside your house without permission, like that's crazy, right? Like that's disassociative. That is like too much pride. That is like being unwilling to admit I raised my child horribly. My kid did not realize that was so wrong and so stupid that this is the result. It was like, no, it's someone else's fault.
It's a good anecdote. I think it's clearly indicative of a situation where pride is the killer, right? But like, how many people in the world are like, oh, I hate going to work. I hate doing this. I hate doing that, right? And I just want to stay home and smoke weed. That's all I want to do. I just want to stay home and smoke weed
every day.
Play some games, right? Like that's all I want to do. I think that's like so normal, right? Like there's not the stigma there should be on that.
Yeah.
Whereas I think how easy is it to say, oh, that person's narcissistic? That's a narcissist, and we act like, oh my goodness, they must be
a
the devil
narcissist.
himself, right? Like,
Yeah.
Well, it's somewhat weird because we're starting to branch into like types of pride and types of laziness too. So whenever I'm just looking at like the success that one person reaches, I'm assuming this is a very personal thing. Whereas I think in your case that was like a lot of like pride of what they are, not necessarily pride in oneself or like pride in one's ability to not make the wrong move when going towards success or whatnot. Whereas like there's laziness in sometimes people are just really sloppy at what they do, and I think that person is extremely inefficient at being able to build success and getting the right job done. So
I do wonder about that. Oh well, I could go probably on for a while, but don't know if that's interesting now. I don't know. I think it. I also think he was specifically. I think this quote was in reference to maybe like how people deal with their finances and their decision making, as far as like investments or how you spend it correctly. For instance, people who work very hard at minimum wage jobs buying $200 sneakers, right? Or going out and buying Hennessy on the weekends. And it's like, instead of taking that money and saying, I don't care what people think of me on the weekends, I'm going to take that, invest it over time. Eventually it will build, and then I could invest it into a company or something else that would make money. Instead, they're so worried about what people think about them on a regular basis that they will chip away. Like, the right now is so important that people think that they're a certain tier, that they sabotage their future. I think that's what he was getting at, and I kind of agree with it. I do think a lot of people do make temporary decisions, spending decisions, that if they were wiser with their money and they didn't worry about what people thought, they could, if they were really smart with it and they didn't care, within 5-10 years they would have a ticket to a completely different tier of financial freedom than they would ever have just going through the system and working hard. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I heard somebody say something.
I just feel like the pride is like, that's what I was saying. Pride is such a low IQ hurdle, whereas the laziness, you have to be a high IQ to get over that. Like, you can be dumb, prideful, and still.
If you're dumb, then you gotta be tough. Yeah.
I mean, when we see, I suppose if we're putting the same person with a laziness inhibitor and a pride inhibitor through the exact same criteria on both sides, I would almost always go to.
Well, no, because you're still saying that you work hard, but I think what he's saying is, even if you work, the pride will sabotage you to the same degree that a lazy person. Like, in other words, the pride will make you spend that money that you're making, even if you're going out and grinding. It doesn't matter, because you waste the money in order to fill a certain thing, instead of it's like it almost sabotages as much as just not
feels
working.
Like it's both. That feels like it's lazy and prideful. I'm saying, regardless to whatever outside factors that you're putting into it, if you're putting the same job and the same criteria for the job, I think the proud person is gonna succeed more often than the lazy one.
Yeah, and it's interesting. This brings me up. I was going to move on to a different topic, but this made me think of something. I feel like we need different definitions for the word pride or proud, because I think we're using it differently. I think when you talk like biblical sin of pride, that is like a narcissism, an ego. It's different than but we can say, oh, he took pride in his work. That's a completely different thing, right? That's not a, but we use the same word, and it's unfortunate. It's kind of like when we use love, but we use it for whether or not we enjoy eating taco meat or we would give our lives for our child. Like it's the same fucking, like modern English is ass. And like Greek, they have 7 different words for love and like 13 different words for pride. It's like they have all these very detailed, like this is what is exactly talking about. We were just like, good enough. And so I do wonder about that as well. It's like if it's just a matter of we suck ass at language, and it's hard to describe exactly what we're talking about. Okay, I got one more, and then we can call it. Okay.
No, you did, man.
And I think this will be somewhere in placebos. Like he's bat up the bat, and he can swing.
Oh yeah,
a little bit. At a low enough IQ, seeing is believing.
This is for me, guys.
I know my baby. I know my baby boy. This is an example of level 2 consciousness, absurdly low for somebody with access to the internet. This style of communication, magical beliefs spread by technology, is a serious problem. We're going to have to we're going to have to restrict internet access from people below a certain range of IQ if we want to preserve any part of civilization worth living.
I was looking into something like this the other day. I think it's called Brandolini's Law, but I'm going to look it up again just to be safe. It is called Brandolini's Law. Okay. And Brandolini's Law says it takes an order of magnitude more effort to debunk bullshit that is spread than to spread the bullshit, right? And I absolutely agree with that.
Yep.
And I think that is a very, very poignant concern right now, where bullshit can spread much, much faster, right? Like with the internet, the speed at which you can spread that bullshit, it's like, we're all a small school now, right? If there's drama, it's everywhere in a day. And it takes an order of magnitude more effort to get rid of that. I mean, think about the vaccines and autism thing when that happened, right? A study came out saying vaccines cause autism, right? It took ages for that to go anywhere, right? I have not had almost any of my vaccines because to this day my grandmother still thinks that's true, right? I mean, any political things that are out there, right? They just spread like wildfire, right? I remember I was dating a girl, and she was like, "Oh, let's talk about the," or I think we were in a class or something. They were like, "Oh, the wage gap." And I was like, "Well, I haven't really experienced the wage gap in my life. I work at Publix in the deli. I make $10 an hour. The girls that work there make $10 an hour, right? So I guess I just don't understand."
Yeah.
And the response was, "Oh, well, it's known. It's a known thing, right?"
Well, that's just, I hate that mentality.
But that's what this is.
You're right. People use the "it's known." Well, that's what he's talking about. Low IQ, right? Like the inability to understand and to think, like, well, why is it known? Is it actually established in research? Is there multiple different studies that could counter? Like, I still think there's a lot of medical stuff, including vaccines or whatever, that there's a lot that needs to be done. Like, there are enough that it should make go, we should be questioning this maybe a little. We can't completely go off the deep end, but we should at least get a verified central yes. This is the exact fact, right? Like we should
studies replicable.
Yes.
Can we do them again and get the same results?
Exactly. We need to figure some of this stuff out. But I agree. I hate when people go, "Oh, it's known," or "Everybody knows," and it's like, no, that just means everybody types about it on social media. That does not mean anybody knows anything.
All it
I mean,
means is
just to
the order
play-
of magnitude to erase the bullshit has not been provided yet. We've
Yeah.
only gotten that first order of magnitude to spread the bullshit, but we've not yet gotten the rest.
Just to play devil's advocate a little bit, it is known that women make less monies, but that's because they accept jobs that on general
Yes. So
make less money.
okay,
Like,
yeah.
it's-
It did come out exactly where the numbers came from. They were taking overall average money that was made by women
yes.
with the overall average money that men were making.
Oh,
But women were
just thinking-
choosing to. Well, no,
No,
because
I-
now you made the statement. I have to clarify for everybody listening.
I-
So then, what it was is they were choosing lower paying jobs. Women were making the choice, and then men were working like oil rig worker. Very dangerous, high physical, but it pays well. Lobster fisherman, you get paid like $120K a year, but it's super physical, super dangerous. So women weren't taking that job. That's where they actually come out with more studies that at the same level, like the average female CEO actually makes slightly more than the average male CEO right now for every company like above like just your basic pop-up mom and pop shop. So anyway, it wasn't like a 1-to-1. It was like overall they took the average and it was less, but it was because women liked certain types of jobs that just were lower paying, and men were willing to take certain jobs that were more dangerous, and so they paid more because they were more risky. That's where that came from. I know you weren't trying, but then if we put that out there, I feel like I have to at least add.
I know.
Well, look at
Statistical
the
context.
amount of effort we've all had to put in, right? Would you say it's an order of magnitude greater than to just say, it
Yeah,
is known?
you're right. To make a statement, you have to. You're right. Well, no, this is where we had. I won't get into details, but we had some conversations about some people that I have had disagreements with in our personal groups, and that was part of my frustration with it. Was like I felt like every time I got into a chat for a while with them, it was like I just started getting worn out because like it would be like one thing, and I was like, I now have to go through and correct all of this, which would take research and infinite, to prove a statement wrong. You have to. It's difficult, and so I think this is very like applicable. Like it very hits me in the home, in the heart. I'm like, yes, I fully understand the frustration with this process.
And it's only a problem because people don't know the difference between jet skis and ski-doos.
Yeah, well, that's true. Chat, do you know the difference between a jet ski and a ski-doo? Do you? Didn't think so. Nah. This is not a well-known fact. I just asked him a question, but I'm going to end up on him. Okay, well, we made it 2 hours. We have made it 2 hours. The stream's 2 hours. The podcast 2 hours. Everybody's happy. I'm sure you're all engaged and riveted. I appreciate you being here. Please, by the way, so this will be going up probably tomorrow on YouTube. Please watch it, like it, and make a comment on it. Because, it needs people to engage with it for it to flourish as a podcast. So, please subscribe to its, I believe it's actually listed as Academic Suspension with Dr. Lilford. I believe that's the actual name of the channel, something like that. But that's the name of the podcast nonetheless. And I may end up tweaking that because I always have some of these guys with me every week. So maybe I might take out Dr. Lilford. I don't know. Just have it Academic Suspension. That way it doesn't. Anyway, point being, please go do stuff. Please subscribe, follow the channel, all that good stuff. I love you all, but I'm going to go and accomplish things with life. We've had 2 hours of talking about shit, and we will do it again next week. I love you. Kiss 'ems. And I will talk to you later. Goodbye.